So we find ourselves here tonight with Chris and Ed from Editors before their sold-out gig at Tavastia tonight. How are you doing, guys?
Very well, thanks, yeah.
Yeah? So you've been quite busy of late. You've been on tour, and it's now brought you here to Finland. How has the tour been so far?
Well, the European leg's been really good. Yeah, we've been on tour for the best part of a year, really.
Right.
We started when we released the record in October and haven't really stopped. We've been Australia, America, UK, and here, and it's been pretty hectic. So this is the last night. It's our last headline show of this album campaign, really. So looking forward to it.
Why are you called Editors? What's the story behind the name?
Main questions. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. There's not really. It's probably because there isn't really an answer for it.
Right.
We signed a record deal. Had to get our records out.
Yeah.
Put them onto print, and we just needed to find a name as soon as possible. And that was the least bad one.
What were the others? I mean, I'm not saying that Editors is bad, obviously, but just out of interest.
I can't remember. That was a big long list. I remember, we've got a song called Bullets. Bullets was actually put forward to be one of the band names as well. That's where the name of the song came from.
The theme of your latest album sort of revolves around London. Why London, though? Why not, for example, Birmingham?
Well, I don't know if it necessarily is London-centric. It's definitely an urban record.
Right.
We actually recorded in London in a place called Willesden, which is not the nicest, most salubrious part of the city, but it's quite gritty, and I think we wanted to instill a little bit of that on the record. It's definitely not a beautiful summer's day in the countryside type of album.
I think the first record was quite influenced by Birmingham.
Yeah.
In a way, yeah. So we were there a lot when we were writing it. And it took a while to write it, and we were living in Birmingham for a long time.
Yeah.
So it would definitely it wasn't directly about that, but we definitely soaked up a lot of what that city was all about.
Yeah. Compared to your earlier stuff, I guess the biggest change on your newest album is the sort of electronic aspect to it, which is very sort of central to it. Is this something that you made a conscious decision about to incorporate a new sound, or something that just sort of gradually crept in?
Everybody's got. It did sort of gradually creep in, because we went into rehearsal studios and we're trying to demo new songs for the record, and everything was just sounding a little bit lame, a bit like what we used to do a couple of years ago, which wasn't exciting. So Chris was kind of the catalyst to it. He got a few synths and started writing his lead lines, which he'd traditionally write on his guitar, and he'd go and write them on the synth, and then it just brought about a complete shift in atmosphere to the track. So, and all of us wanted to sort of go down this route. It was really exciting. It was a brand new thing for us to sort of work out. So it is very synthetic. Right. Everything about it. I mean, even vocals we've tried to sort of manipulate in some way to make them sound sort of unworldly and a bit more interesting. So there's a lot of interesting production on the entire record. We didn't want to leave anything kind of au naturel.
Yeah. Well, I guess like there is the resulting the whole that it then makes is very sort of Blade Runner-ish, sort of meets Cyberpunk meets post-punk sort of urban landscape. I was just gonna say, how much do you love? How much does that influence? Are you guys fans of cyberpunk and sci-fi stuff?
So, sci-fi stuff in a certain way.
So, maybe cyberpunk means something different in the UK.
Does it?
I hope so.
Do you? What does it mean? What does it mean?
When I think of cyberpunk, I think of that shop in Manchester. Do you think that it was like this really dreadful store in Manchester, and it was like always a nightclub scene, like constantly, even like during the day.
Right.
I don't know what the people were doing working there, and it was like really dark and like full of neon and just really, really dreadful clothes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
Very dated. It's like it was something that sort of happened in like 1999 and then kind of just went straight away, but people still like it.
Yeah, I guess the feel that I got from it was closer to sort of William Gibson's sort of Neuromancer, that sort of the Blade Runner sort of.
Bit better.
Yeah.
Getting closer.
Right. Yeah. Right. Okay.
Getting closer.
Yeah. Also, the new album it's a very sort of cinematic album, a very big album, and it would sound awesome as a movie soundtrack as well. Is this something you guys have ever considered, making music for movies in a bigger way?
Yeah, I think we'd all like to. Really.
Fun, yeah, it'd be fun.
I don't know how we'd sort of just go about it necessarily, but something might fall into our laps at some point.
Someone needs to offer us something that we like.
Yeah. Well, didn't you just recently contribute a song to the New Moon soundtrack?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Yeah. I mean, there is a track, but it's basically a demo of Tom's singing a song called "No Sound But the Wind," and they actually wanted to change the lyrics a little bit because the lyrics that he'd written originally didn't really fit in with the whole vampire teen thing.
Right.
So that he adjusted a couple, and I think he was relatively happy with the outcome. But we're playing it live now, and he's reverted back to the original lyrics. I think he's a lot more comfortable with that.
Okay.
That was, I mean, it was good to be asked. We did it because it expands our listenership in America, because that was the key thing. It's a huge film over there.
True.
Not so big in England, but pretty big. You know, I keep on seeing posters for it all over Europe. You know, Edward is a big face.
True.
Yeah, it's just it's all a little bit political, really, but something that we wouldn't be adverse to doing in the future.
Yeah. Okay. What would you say? Who would you say you owe the biggest sort of allegiance to in terms of music, or what has your biggest influence been, in your own words?
I think in terms of career, in terms of the way they carry themselves in a band, I think REM, who we played with here last year in the pouring rain. The way, just the way they've progressed. They've never rested on their sort of. I mean, they could have quite easily sat back and just received the plaudits, but they keep on working, and they keep on trying to improve themselves on every album. They're not worried about what the public thinks of them. They're just genuine musicians. So I guess them as influence as a whole, not necessarily the style of music, but as a whole, as a band, I think they're excellent.
Okay, all right. Well, the band has gone through some changes, what with fatherhood and half of you living in the States. How does that affect the dynamics of the band? Has there been some challenges that have arisen out of that?
I think it actually improves the dynamics.
Yeah?
Yeah, because when we actually get the time to be together, it's a little bit more precious.
Yeah.
Can be a bit more productive because of that. There's a definitive time. The experiences we're all having apart from each other make our lives a bit more interesting, and I think that makes for better music.
Yeah. That's a pretty thing to say. You've grown up somewhere in the midst of everything, from being a band coming sort of straight out of university to where you are now, playing big shows and doing big tours. Has there been time to sort of grow and change as a person?
Sorry, my nose was running.
Yeah, definitely.
Got ectoplasm flying out of every orifice of my body today.
It's definitely the end of the tour.
Yeah.
I think our priorities have definitely changed. I think we've grown up quite substantially, especially over the last record.
Yeah.
Felt a little bit more in control of what we're doing.
No.
And very positive about what we can do on the next record as well. We all want to get into the studio as soon as possible. As soon as we've finished the festival season, as soon as we get some songs, in the early stages of writing, we'll all be working pretty hard on getting some new music towards the end of the year. So good times.
Yeah. So we can expect a new record, sort of end of the year time.
Well, not at the end of the year. I mean, we'll certainly. Our main priority is try and get into the studio together before the end of the year.
Right.
And it depends. We might come up with something that's bloody awful. We have to just completely write off. But I feel really quite confident that all of us have got sort of a real thirst for getting a good record out as soon as possible. So no worries there.
All right. So we'll wait for that. Thank you guys. Have a great show tonight. And it's over and out from us here. Thanks, and be good.